volatility might that mean for this market going forward?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with it. I mean, the European initiative especially has been very powerful, and the more we talk about it, the more that we've got Climate Week in New York coming up in September. We've got COP26 in Glasgow in Scotland coming up at the end of the year in November. These are very high-profile events. These are all pushing towards these Paris Agreement targets, and the more high-profile this becomes, arguably the higher the price of carbon will be as more awareness comes to these markets.
The moment that video ended, the one you just watched about HBAR's strange price movements, something probably shifted inside you. Not excitement, not hype, something deeper. That quiet, uneasy feeling you get when you realize you might be looking at the early moments of a major turning point. The kind of moment most people only recognize years later, when the chart looks like a staircase to the sky and everyone suddenly becomes a believer. And I don't know about you, but the second I saw those headlines and that on-chain activity they broke down in that clip, my chest got tight. Because it wasn't random. It wasn't noise. It wasn't another pump-and-dump storyline. It felt intentional, coordinated, like a signal disguised as a ripple. And HBAR holders, the real ones, you felt it. That moment where you freeze and think, wait, is this it? Is this the shift? Because here's the truth most people still ignore. HBAR is not a maybe project. It is not some speculative meme ecosystem. It is not dependent on influencers shouting on Twitter or hype cycles that burn out in 24 hours. HBAR is infrastructure. Real, industrial-grade infrastructure being built in plain sight while retail fights over meme coins. Every time you look at what Hedera is doing, you find another piece of the puzzle that shouldn't be there unless something massive is coming. Enterprises onboarding. Governments testing, banks poking around, transactions scaling like somebody is warming up the engine before the race. And then you look back at the price, sitting quietly, almost suspiciously calm, and you realize there is no universe where this stays cheap forever. Not with the kind of adoption pipelines Hedera is building. Not with the way they're setting up real-world use cases that involve millions of people without them even knowing they're using it. That's the part that messes with your head. Most people think adoption looks loud. But real adoption, the kind that rewires an entire financial era, is silent, invisible, almost boring, until one day it isn't. And that's why the idea of HBAR hitting $2 doesn't even feel like a prediction anymore. It feels like gravity. It feels like inevitability. Like you're watching an arrow that's already in mid-flight, and the rest of the world hasn't noticed it's coming straight for the target. Think back to that video you just watched. The institutional flows, the enterprise integration timelines, the confirmations about throughput scaling, the strange clustering of wallet activity. Those aren't coincidences. That's infrastructure preparing for demand. And nobody, absolutely nobody, prepares an engine like that unless they know something big is on the horizon. HBAR is the quiet kid in the room that already understands the entire assignment but refuses to brag about it. And the market still thinks that's weakness. But you and I both know it's the opposite. It's the reason HBAR has survived every crash, every downturn, every moment where weaker projects evaporated. It's built different because it was designed for a different scale. And here's the part that sparks that feeling in your stomach. If Hedera was only meant to be a niche project, they would not be building partnerships with systems that serve millions of users. They wouldn't be working with entities that only commit to infrastructure that lasts for decades. They wouldn't be testing throughput that dwarfs almost every chain in the market. You don't build like that for fun. You build like that because you're preparing to carry weight. Global weight. And suddenly $2 stops sounding bold. It starts sounding small. It starts sounding like step one. But this isn't about hype. It's about recognizing what almost everyone else is missing. The same way early believers in XRP and XLM saw the playbook before the world caught up. HBAR is not designed for retail excitement. It's designed for global integration, for stability, for enterprise-grade reliability, for real-world transactions at a scale that would break most blockchains in half. And the funniest part? The people most connected to Hedera, the ones building the tools, the ones architecting the networks, the ones quietly pushing these updates, they're not talking about meme numbers. They talk in decades, in global infrastructure timelines, in words like settlement, governance, compliance, and scalability. You don't use vocabulary like that unless you're planning something enormous. So when experts whisper about a $2 HBAR, when analysts suddenly shift their tone, when enterprise reports start hinting at mass onboarding, it's not random. It's not speculation. It's a leak, a slip, preview, a breadcrumb trail for anyone awake enough to follow it. And you're here, listening, connecting the dots while everyone else scrolls past the most important transformation of this decade. You know that moment when something finally clicks in your mind? Like you've been staring at puzzle pieces for months, maybe even years, and suddenly, without warning, they just lock together and you're like, wait, has this been in front of me the whole time? That is exactly what is happening with Hedera right now. Because once you look beyond the noise, beyond the price swings, beyond the Twitter predictions, you start seeing something bigger forming in the shadows. Something coordinated. Something intentional. Something that feels less like a speculative crypto project and more like infrastructure for a world that is quietly preparing to upgrade itself from the inside out. And that is why a $2 HBAR is not just possible. It's inevitable. Let me show you why. First, you have to understand this. Hedera is not moving like a normal crypto. It is not trying to hype its way into the spotlight. It is not dropping memes or begging influencers to talk about it. It is doing something more dangerous, something more powerful. It is partnering with giants quietly. Think about the names sitting on the Hedera Governing Council. Not random startups. Not temporary hype companies. We are talking about global, century-old pillars of the world economy. Companies that literally run industries. Firms that have survived wars, recessions, financial collapses, leadership changes, legal battles, and technological revolutions. Yet they remain standing. And now those same companies are choosing Hedera. Not Ethereum. Not Solana. Not Polygon. Not even private internal systems. They chose Hedera. Do you realize how insane that is? Most cryptos out there are still begging for government clarity. Hedera? It is working with policymakers. It is being shaped by enterprises that are already compliant, already regulated, already embedded inside the global system. This is not a retail-driven blockchain. This is enterprise-grade infrastructure. And every time a new partnership drops, even if it barely trends online, it adds another brick to a foundation that will look, one day, like the backbone of the new digital economy. But here's the crazy part. Most retail investors still don't understand what that means. They look at Hedera's current price and laugh. They look at the quiet chart and walk away. They look at the slow pace and say, nah, I'll chase something with hype. But hype does not build the future. Infrastructure does. And Hedera is becoming the digital infrastructure for a world that wants speed, security, compliance, fairness, transparency, and energy efficiency, all at once. Try finding another chain that does all that. You won't. This is why a $2 HBAR is not a moonshot prediction. It is simply math, timing, and demand. Let's talk about token economics for a second, not in a boring white paper way, but in a way that helps you feel what is coming. Hedera is one of the only networks where enterprise usage is increasing even when the price is not exploding. That usually never happens in crypto. Activity follows hype. But with Hedera, activity follows need. Big difference. Enterprises aren't buying HBAR because it's trendy. They're using the network because it solves problems they actually face: transaction speed, security, finality, governance, energy cost, scalability, and transparency for auditing. And here's what people forget. Every single time a major organization deploys an application on Hedera, every single transaction, every single micropayment, every single tokenized asset, every single supply chain verification, every single data anchor, they all run on the same fuel, HBAR. Demand does not have to come from retail. Demand does not have to come from hype. Demand does not need a bull run. Demand comes from utility. And utility is already happening behind the scenes. This is what makes Hedera dangerous in the best possible way. Because when retail finally wakes up, they'll be chasing something that institutions have already been quietly accumulating, integrating, and relying on for real-world operations. Now let's talk about the upcoming catalysts that truly push HBAR toward that $2 mark. We are entering a global shift where tokenization is not some future dream. It is happening. Banks are testing it. Governments are researching it. Enterprises are preparing for it. And what chain do you think they're going to rely on for tokenization of real-world assets? A meme coin? A slow chain with $10 gas fees? A chain that crashes under load? No. They're going straight to the network that is fast, cheap, enterprise-governed, and globally trusted. Hedera. Imagine billions of dollars in tokenized real estate. Imagine supply chains across continents using Hedera for verification. Imagine global brands anchoring data every single minute. Imagine micropayments flowing across applications at speeds nobody has ever seen. Imagine countries using Hedera for energy credits, identity systems, or document authentication. All of this creates transactional demand. Transactional demand creates price pressure. Price pressure creates price movement. And this is why the $2 number keeps showing up in serious conversations. It is not a fantasy. It is a logical consequence of supply, usage, and adoption. But here's the part that hits hardest. Most people won't believe any of this until after it happens. They'll wait for the announcements. They'll wait for the charts to go parabolic. They'll wait for influencers to start screaming about HBAR. They'll wait until $2 feels confirmed. But by then, the opportunity will be gone. HBAR is not asking for hype. It is not begging for attention. It is simply building relentlessly, quietly, consistently. And that is why the people paying attention today, the people listening, researching, connecting the dots, are the ones who will wake up one day shocked that the rest of the world didn't see it coming. $2 is not a moonshot. $2 is a checkpoint, and we are walking straight toward it. It's funny how quiet moments often carry the loudest signals. That's exactly what's happening with HBAR right now. While the world's eyes are glued to other headlines, other coins, other trending narratives, something monumental is forming underneath. A silent current that only the people paying attention can feel. Hedera isn't moving like other cryptos. It's deliberate. It's methodical. Every partnership, every integration, every update isn't just a step forward. It's a signal to the ecosystem. We're ready for the real world, and the real world is finally ready for us. Think about it. How many times have we seen coins spike on hype alone, only to crash within days because there was no foundation to support the growth? HBAR doesn't have that problem. Its foundation is built on enterprise adoption, institutional trust, and government-level governance. That's a kind of resilience that charts and candles simply can't capture. And when you start to dig into Hedera's structure, you see why a $2 price point isn't just possible, it's inevitable. Hedera's Hashgraph technology allows near-instant transaction finality at a fraction of the cost of traditional blockchains. That's not a small detail. That's the kind of feature that enterprise systems demand. Banks, multinational corporations, logistics companies, and even governments cannot adopt a network that lags or crashes under scale. Hedera was designed to handle billions of transactions while keeping fees microscopic and the network secure. That's why they're not just dabbling in crypto, they're deploying infrastructure. And here's the kicker. The more enterprises use Hedera, the more HBAR is needed. Every transaction consumes HBAR. Every tokenized asset requires HBAR for execution. Every data verification, every micropayment, every smart contract, they all use the same fuel. Demand for real-world utility creates real price pressure. And unlike speculative hype, this is a demand that can't disappear overnight. Look at the partnerships. Hedera isn't just targeting tech startups or blockchain enthusiasts. They're onboarding major brands, governments, and global consortia. Each integration represents hundreds of thousands, even millions of real-world users. Not retail attention, not FOMO, real adoption, real use cases, real transactional demand. And while all of this quietly unfolds, the market remains largely unaware. People see HBAR trading quietly and assume nothing is happening. That's the beauty of it. When the world wakes up, the opportunity will already have advanced far beyond simple price speculation. Retail investors chasing hype will be too late to benefit from the groundwork laid by institutions. It's also important to understand that this isn't linear growth. Hedera's adoption may seem slow at first, but adoption curves of this scale rarely are. Early phases are always understated. Then suddenly the system reaches a tipping point. Transactions explode. Partnerships multiply. Enterprise adoption goes viral. And at that point, every metric you thought you were watching begins to feel like it's accelerating exponentially. Think about HBAR's position relative to other blockchains. Many have been struggling to prove themselves to enterprises because of slow speeds, high fees, or security concerns. Hedera checks all the boxes: near-instant finality, negligible fees, energy-efficient consensus, and enterprise-governed stability. It's like watching someone build a high-speed bridge across a river while everyone else is still trying to row a wooden boat. And this is where it gets really interesting. The market may not price in enterprise adoption until the real-world utility becomes undeniable. But when it does, there will be a flood of demand. And unlike speculative coins, this demand isn't driven by hype cycles. It's driven by actual necessity. Organizations cannot ignore a network that facilitates efficiency, compliance, and scalability at global levels. Now imagine billions of transactions flowing daily, thousands of tokenized assets being managed, governments verifying data on-chain, corporations using Hedera for settlement and micropayments. The sheer magnitude of utility dwarfs anything the retail market has ever priced in. When the penny drops, it's going to feel like a rocket launch. And remember, this isn't just a story about HBAR's technical merits. It's about timing, positioning, and foresight. Only those who recognize the signals: enterprise adoption, strategic partnerships, regulatory alignment, and real-world deployment, will see the full picture before the world catches on. So when experts start whispering about a $2 HBAR, it's not guesswork. It's the natural consequence of supply, demand, and adoption converging at the perfect time. The foundation is laid. The enterprise integrations are real. The adoption is accelerating quietly, and the market hasn't even realized it yet. HBAR isn't a gamble. It's infrastructure. It's utility. It's the network that global players have quietly chosen to build the future on. And the more the world leans into digital assets, enterprise blockchain, and tokenized ecosystems, the more inevitable that $2 price becomes. This is the moment where patience, awareness, and understanding matter more than hype. Because by the time mainstream attention arrives, the trajectory will already be set, and the early believers, the ones paying attention to the signals, will be the ones who step off the sidelines with a clear advantage. Here's the thing about moments like this: they don't scream, they whisper. They creep into the system quietly, and if you're paying attention, you can feel it long before the charts reflect it. That's exactly where HBAR is right now. While the world chases headlines, while others speculate wildly, the real transformation is happening quietly behind the scenes, and it's moving fast. Institutions, enterprises, and governments are testing, integrating, and deploying Hedera solutions without any fanfare. And every transaction, every tokenization, every micropayment that flows across this network strengthens the foundation and, by extension, the value of HBAR itself. This isn't about hype. This isn't about social media chatter. This is about real-world adoption, the kind that survives crashes, bear markets, and temporary sentiment swings. $2 for HBAR isn't just a number floating in some analyst's prediction. It's a checkpoint. It's a natural outcome of demand meeting supply, infrastructure meeting necessity, and technology meeting timing. Once enterprises fully deploy on Hedera, once governments and large corporations start relying on it for critical systems, the market will have no choice but to reflect that value. And here's why you need to internalize this. While most people are waiting for a moonshot moment, the actual rocket has already started building pressure. Those who recognize the signs now, who understand that adoption, utility, and scalability create unstoppable momentum, are the ones positioned to benefit when the world finally catches on. This is about foresight, not luck. The quiet confidence of HBAR comes from the fact that it's engineered for the long term. It's built for enterprises, governments, and large-scale adoption. Its hashgraph technology ensures speed, security, and efficiency that most other networks can't match. And as the world leans further into digital finance, tokenized assets, and global real-time systems, HBAR is already in the right place at the right time. So what does this mean for you, the viewer? It means awareness is everything. It means connecting the dots, paying attention to the signals, and positioning yourself in front of the inevitable. The $2 mark isn't hype. It's the logical outcome of a network that's quietly becoming indispensable. If this video helped you see HBAR differently, don't wait until the mainstream catches on. Hit the subscribe button so you never miss updates like this. Drop a like if you're ready to pay attention to the signals instead of the noise. And share this with someone who needs to understand that the quietest assets often carry the loudest opportunities. Stay alert, stay patient, and remember, the future of finance is being built quietly, and Hedera is already in the driver's seat.